Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in into our second episode on the topic of adapting leadership in an ever-changing military environment. I'm your host, Cadet Major Jackie Huang, and today we are joined by Major Amanda Brady, our AS-200 instructor, to talk about leadership, adaptability, and team cohesion in the Air Force, all of which are essential for understanding the environment we'll have to lead as a future Air Force officer. It is an honor to have you, ma'am.
Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone.
Before we get on topic, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Things like where you're from, how many years you've been in, what inspired you to join the Air Force, and what are some leadership roles and responsibilities you have held throughout your Air Force career?
Perfect. Thank you for asking. So I personally am from what most people call the Northeast. I claim Pennsylvania, but also claim some of the Southeast in North Carolina as part of my home. So that's where I call home. I will say, since moving to the state of Ohio and as an adult now, my true home is actually becoming OHIO. As our Ohio brethren and sisterin will say. So that is what I deem as home now, but not truly where I'm from. So I decided to join the military for a few different reasons, but the main reason is I believe that everyone should serve in some sort of position that is giving back to their community, giving back to those that are not themselves. So giving some sort of civil service in either police department, EMS, fire, nurse, or military service, in my eyes, should happen from everybody, at least for 2 to 4 years of their life, so they understand commitment of supporting somebody outside of just themselves.
Interesting.
And then, so some leadership roles that I have held and some responsibilities that I've held throughout my career. I have been both Army and Air Force. I spent 8 years of my first half of my career, in a sense, in the Army. I've held multiple positions for my 15 years of experience now. I've been a platoon leader for the Army. I've been a company executive officer, or what they deem as an XO. I've been a staff at both the battalion and brigade level within the Army. And then in the Air Force, I've served flight commander. I've been in staff positions, executive officers for a MAGCOM. And then I've served as a director of operations, or DO. And then my last job before coming here as your cadre member within our detachment, I was within the Commander's Action Group, also known as CAG. Some of the most hated position within the Air Force. It's because you do a bunch of staff work, but you work directly for a 4-star or a 3-star general for the MAGCOM, and you are his or hers direct assistant in making sure their day-to-day life happens. So it's a lot of good learning experiences for both the Army and the Air Force that's catapulted me into some of the positions that I have today, but what I'll potentially see for my future too.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned before, you joined the Air Force, you were prior Army.
Correct.
Right? And I think most people who know nothing about the military still knows just how different that each branch of the military can be.
Yeah.
It's almost like, let's say you're in the NBA, and at one day you're playing for the Dallas Mavericks, and then tomorrow you get traded, and now you're the Los Angeles Lakers. It's still basketball, it's still the NBA, but the style, the culture, and the expectation still feels totally different. And when you're a leader, that kind of shift can really just test how well you adapt. So with that being said, here's our first question. Transitioning from the Army to the Air Force with the cultural differences, what are some challenges you have had to adapt?
So there are a few of them. Culture, mission set, and then perspectives of people within the Air Force of how they view Army, how they view the Army, or how they view Army officers altogether. Some of that have been hurdles, and some of that have actually worked in my favor. So the culture between Army and the Air Force, mind you, they're both government's military service, is drastically different. And I think that's due to the mission sets. The mission set between the Army and the Air Force, one more ground and one more air, you don't truly know the differences between them until you go from an Army post to an Air Force base.
Yes.
And somebody tells you, well, it's a post, right? No, it's a base. And then you truly get into the definition of post and base, and you're like, oh. And then you fully kind of pull back layers of the onion and kind of like, yeah, well, in the Army, if I'm in a training cycle, I'm getting ready to deploy.
Okay.
Or I'm getting ready to gear up to do some sort of mission set that we've been tagged to do. And we're on a cycle for that. It could be a 24-month cycle. It could be an 18-month cycle. It could be a 36-month cycle, depending on your unit.
Sure.
When you're in a down cycle of your training, like you're just doing post-ops, like slight thing. You're fixing your vehicles, maintaining your equipment, making sure you can be prepared to go to the field or go do your mission when you deploy. Air Force is 24/7 kind of mission ops based off your base. So if you're in a heavy flying base where you have a high flight mission or high flying mission out of that base, as a logistics officer, you're doing mission sets that supports the warfighter on a daily basis. Right. It's not just during your training cycle. So having to fully understand that that part that's being requested by maintenance is actually going to a sortie that's going downrange tomorrow. Oh, that's why it's important that we get that part immediately to fix that jet that needs to get downrange. Or so that aspect and fully understanding that culture and the mission set shift, I think it's small, but was I think the largest shift in my mindset that needed to be done. Because 8 years of doing one thing,
Right.
and then all of a sudden the next day you're doing something completely different. It was a challenge. I will say the perspective that most people have about Air Force, for the competition between the Air Force and the Army, will always be there.
Right.
But the perception that majority of people had about the Army and Army officers, I would say, was pretty decent. They knew we're strong in leadership styles. They knew we grow our leaders fairly early in our career. So that aspect, I think, helped me in transitioning.
Okay.
Because I could talk to people, I could communicate, and I could lead. So I had those three things. All I needed to learn was what I did and what I needed to do. So it kind of, I'd say it was a big win in my bucket for the transition.
Sounds like you kind of have a bit of a few wake-up call here and there when you first transitioned into the Air Force.
I did.
Yeah. I know it's tough because when you first get trained in a military setting, you're taught that this is the way and perhaps the only way. And when you go into a different branch, they're immediately teaching you that, hey, never mind what you have learned in the past in your entire life. This is the new way that you have to go about. So that transition, it's seemingly impossible to a lot of people, but you got through it, and that's amazing.
I did. It didn't take me out of the running yet. So yeah. I'll keep my feet on the ground firm for now. So, but
you got this. We believe in you.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
So, how did you mentally approach entering into the Air Force as an experienced officer, balancing that confidence with humility to know that you have to relearn parts of the job or even the culture?
Yeah, so I had to take it day by day, step by step. I tried not to overreact or overcomplicate a situation.
Okay.
So taking it fact-based, being rational with it, getting into the regs. So I knew what regs I needed to be following in order to do the job I needed to be doing. Because the weight of taking on a new job and being a senior officer at the same time, you're being looked at as if you have X amount of years of experience in that job.
Doesn't matter what branch you came from, you still have that experience.
Exactly. And nobody knows that you transferred. You're wearing an Air Force name. You're wearing an Air Force tab next to your name. So you assume because you've been in the Air Force and you're a captain or a major, well, you've been in the Air Force for 4 to 8 years, 4 to 10 years. So you should know your job. You should know what I'm asking you for. you're an LRO or you're X, Y, and Z for your Air Force Specialty Code, AFSC. So it's one of those things that aspect of the knowledge culture of what people would expect from you, knowing the rank that's on your chest and the name and the service tag that's on you. That I had to approach with a lot of humility and ask for, in a sense, give me grace. I'm still learning.
Right.
I understand. I look like I'm an 8-year captain, almost major. I'm really 1-year Air Force.
Right.
I know what you're saying makes sense. I need to do some more research.
Right. Not to mention a lot of jobs in the military, we almost have to change it, or we were forced to change our position every year or two or so.
Yeah.
So that adaptability is almost essential.
Yes. And for having to move, so I moved a lot with the Army. So moving and learning new positions and getting new positions, the Army, I changed positions every year to 18 months. And then I moved or changed duty stations, I would say roughly every 24 months.
Wow.
So because of schooling and other stuff. So the adaptability was kind of bred into me already with the Army. But learning when you're jumping into a completely new service, the self-doubt falls in. Do I know enough? Will I be okay doing this job? Do I have the abilities to do? I could do this job in this service, but can I do it in this new service? So trying to keep yourself out of that spiral wheel was highly beneficial. And that's where one step at a time, one hurdle at a time, because I ran 300-meter hurdles in high school. So when you start the race, if you focus on 300 meters worth of hurdles, it's a daunting task.
Yeah.
The race is horrible, but it's also exhilarating and so much fun. But it takes so much out of you. But if you look at it one hurdle at a time, it's easier to go, okay, it's one hurdle and I've got 8 steps. It's one hurdle and I've got 8 steps. It's one hurdle and I've got. So if you do it that way, it breaks things down easier for you to digest them, and you don't mentally burn out as much, at least in my side of the fence.
That's impressive.
Thank you.
It surely does help. It's one of those things that people say, hey, take it one day at a time, right?
Oh, yeah.
But sometimes we just forget because it's so hard to not go down in a spiral.
Yes.
Sometimes it's just easier that way for people.
It is looking at the forest compared to just the trees. It definitely, you can get lost in the forest when you need to be looking for just certain trees. So, but.
Well, that being said, what leadership tools or habit from the Army carried over effectively into the Air Force, and which ones did you consciously adjust?
So the ones that carried over effectively and the ones I continuously and consciously have to adjust are the same thing.
Really?
Yes. So my leadership style and my personnel management.
Okay.
So my ability to lead has always been there from the Army to the Air Force. I will say, as long as my communication and my personnel management were good, I was able to lead somebody. However, I've had to adjust how I manage my people and how I communicate with people. Communication styles and management styles between the Army and the Air Force, yet similar, have very distinct little differences between the two of them.
Oh, yeah.
It's just because I can be a bit more direct and firm in some cases with some of my Army troops than I potentially could have been with my material management or my logistics airmen. And it's just a cultural difference between the two. And I think it's Air Force Specialty Code AFSC related, or MOS, which is your Air Force Specialty Code for the Army. So I think that aspect I continually have to adjust. I have to adjust it year to year here as an instructor.
Of course.
How I communicate with my new cadets each fall and how I work and manage them with regards to everything that goes into making a cadet. So those aspects helped me thrive in the Army. They're helping me thrive here in the Air Force. It's just I have to learn how to adjust, manipulate, and maneuver them into the situations that I kind of find myself in, depending on which job I have.
Do you feel somewhat forced to have to break it down further into individuals' background experiences when you're leading those people?
So I will say it is a case by case basis.
Okay.
So there will be units that you will have, or what I deem as, I still call them platoons. They're sections in the Air Force that you will need to still manage the same as everybody else, but potentially alter your communication style for those groups and potentially focus your communication slightly different to one or two people in those groups.
Sure.
Now, you want to keep technically the intent, standards, and everything else the exact same for everybody, because perception is real between airmen and between
Right.
troops. And if somebody believes that they are being talked to more sternly than other sections,
Sure.
or they're not getting the same treatment that
Mm.
so and so is, it is a conversation to be had, because not everyone looks at a situation as your family home life is stable right now. Your bills are paid and your kids are doing well in school. Your counterpart working next to you might be going through a significant life event. They just had a car issue, and their sister just called them and said that they need them to watch their kids because they have something going on and they don't have anyone to care for family members. Or a myriad of different things.
Sure.
That could come into. And what isn't explained from airman to airman or troop to troop is that difference between their situations.
Right.
And the empathy and or not really sympathy, but the weight of what you will put on that person will potentially be different than the other person, just due to the fact of what's going on with them mentally and or physically.
Right.
And making sure that that difference is not resented within your unit will be something that you'll have to balance,
Right.
and play delicately. So,
and if there's any scenario or cases where it's going to start affect that team cohesion, it should have be obvious in a way, because when someone is experiencing one thing, it could affect them on the daily basis with what they do on the job, causing that distraction that's all needed. So being a leader to be observant enough to see what's happening, it's very, very important.
and then to also include on that, communicate with the whole. You don't have to give specifics of what individuals or even what individual is going through something. However, talking to the whole section, the whole unit, it's like, hey, this time of year can be difficult for a lot of individuals, and some of you are going through more things than others at this point in time. What I need you all to do is to be very supportive and empathetic, to those around you, because what you're going through could be different than somebody else.
Right.
And the happiness or sorrows that you are having right now will be different than your teammate next to you. So be mindful of that during different seasons, of life for other people, but different seasons of the year will bring through different emotions for people. And if you have that open conversation and lay a blanket statement out, it's subconsciously makes your airmen or troops like trigger something, and they become more aware of like, oh, it just links things together in their brain a little bit more, I have found. So
Be like, hey, this is one of those tough time in the year. I know if I don't talk about it, at least to my supervisor or my boss, that it could affect my ability to do things and essentially affect everybody, because we're all doing the same thing. We're all trying to contribute to that main mission that we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. But a lot of people will have severe hesitations of sharing personal stories or sharing what they're personally going through. So them being able to share with you as a leader the intimate details of it, in a sense, but have it to where it's kind of like very wave top explanation for everybody else, won't you won't individually single that person out. It'll allow them to, anybody could potentially relate to what you're saying. And as long as you can make it to where anyone can relate to it, you'll never have an airman or a troop that feels singled out.
Because you don't want them to feel embarrassed about it too.
Correct.
And it's such a huge, vulnerable thing to talk about your struggle.
Yeah.
No one wants to admit, hey, I'm not doing okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, to have that kind of environment where they feel comfortable about it, it's much needed in every workplace.
Yeah, I would concur.
Yeah. So speaking about cohesion and team dynamics, having seen team dynamics in both the Army and the Air Force, what differences or similarities stands out the most to you and how cohesion is built?
So I will say, looking at it now, coming in, I thought they were extremely different.
Yeah.
Looking at it now, they're really the same.
Wow.
So the way you manage your younger airman or soldier right now in service is they want to know the why. So as I was leaving the Army and coming into the Air Force, the why out of my troops' mouths or my soldiers' mouth was becoming more and more of a thing.
Okay.
Now that I've been in the Air Force for almost 7 years now, so 15 years in total, just about. The why is extremely important for the generation coming up in service. In order for them to be immersed into your mission, into the tasks that they're doing, into the unit, that why has become more and more important. Because without the why, they don't understand. You're telling them to go do X, Y, and Z that's going to take them 5 hours of work to do.
It's very daunting.
Like,
why?
Like, I just did maintenance on that thing 2 days ago. Why do I need to go redo it and prep X, Y, and Z? Here's the why. This is what we're doing. This is what we're building to. This is what whatever you want, whatever the intent, whatever the mission, whatever the task is, explaining that. As a leader, sometimes that can be exhausting.
Right.
Having to explain every little thing because our subordinates now are needing to understand the why more. So communication is key in making sure that I don't know if you've ever seen that spaghetti chart where it looks like a bowl of spaghetti and it's a whole bunch of lines that are squiggled together. Right. And it says communication, and then effective communication is where that bunch of squiggly lines that looks like spaghetti has turned into like a centric circle.
Okay.
And they've smoothed out. You can follow the train of thought. You can follow the why. You can follow the intent. You can follow what the mission is to the middle point being fully executable. That is what you try to do as a leader. Because the team dynamics between the Army and the Air Force aren't that different.
Okay.
A team is a team.
Sure.
Right? It's built the same way. It has the 4 main phases. What is it? I'm quizzing my podcaster. Forming, storming, norming, and performing, right? Teams will go through that same dynamic no matter what service they're in. Team dynamics are always a pain in the rear end because everyone has their own personality, self. They all have their own dynamics that they're now trying to fit in a neat box with each other, right? So the phase or the aspect of building teams are the same. The aspects of keeping teams cohesive are basically the same, but are based off of each individual group. What works for one will not be the same cohesive roadmap that will work for another. Fully understanding of your mission, communication of that, and then trust. And if one of those pillars kind of fall or falter, you lose your team dynamic a little bit, and you drop back on your phases of a team, right? Of team building. That aspect doesn't change between the Army and the Air Force. The way cohesion is built can be different because of the mission sets between the Army and the Air Force are different. The way I built cohesion in my transportation platoon wasn't the same way that I built cohesion in as a material management flight commander, or the way I built team cohesion in the commander's action group in the CAG with a whole bunch of senior officers. All three of them had to build team cohesion, but they were all built differently, and it didn't matter what service they were built in. You have to understand each person's individual dynamics to then allow each team member to feel part of that team, to be a trusted member of that team. And that happens through communication in my part. And the more you communicate, the more you understand an individual, the more you get to know somebody, the more you gain cohesiveness. That's what I'm trying to say. Cohesiveness with your team, which will allow you to effectively operate as a team.
It's almost like every individual in that team is like a puzzle. It may not form into that giant picture perfectly, but you can still fit that corner or that shape into another person. You just have to find the right angle and maybe turn it around, trying to figure out, hey, this person has this personality. That person may not do well with that, but if they share a common goal or if they can come to a common understanding, then perhaps they can still coexist.
Correct.
And then form that team cohesion with everyone else.
Yeah.
Because that personality difference, it's like you said, the forming, the storming,
norming
and performing. That storming stage it's so tough, and a lot of people can be stuck on that forever.
And they can be if they don't learn to adjust to each other.
Right.
Yeah. And you will have some people that just butt heads in teams that for some odd reason will not get along. And I've had that. I've been in that personality struggle before.
Right.
As being, especially when I was in the Army, I was an A-type, what would be deemed as aggressive personality.
Okay.
Well, I'll come back to that. And I would say more of an assertive a personality, but when assertive personalities come from a female, we're deemed more aggressive.
Right.
And it's just culturally. Most people don't
expect females to act that way.
Expect a female to be as assertive as some females can be, and then that can be looked at as aggressive, and then that can lead to a whole myriad of different things. But once we get over the aspect of looking at people based off of genders or other things, and we actually look at team dynamics and how do you function well, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, how do you communicate, how do you do X, Y, and Z, and we start looking at people as people and not image wise, I will tell you that you get a whole different team dynamics when you eliminate and look at people as like they're a blank white sheet of paper. But this blank white sheet of paper has these strengths and weaknesses. This blank white sheet of paper has these strengths and weaknesses. And yes, it can be any color of paper. I just have white paper in front of me. Just being mindful of those things, perceptions of how people grow up, perceptions of how people are raised, what people's backgrounds are, all of that comes into a team dynamic. And you have to fully understand those dynamics of your teams, especially when you have teammates that are butting heads.
Sure.
And it could be something as simple as the way one was raised and the way the other was raised. And you just need to put that on the table and mediate it between the two of them. And then they're like, oh, that's it? Yeah. Okay, let's get to work. Shake hands, get to work. You know what I mean? Team dynamics are complicated no matter what service you're in.
People don't realize how different and similar that aggressiveness and assertiveness can be. There's such a fine line with it. And, especially with that whole male and female perception that we have, it's tough. It's really, really tough.
And when you add passion into it as well, passion can turn assertiveness into aggressive. And that's what I've learned in my career. My passion of doing certain things turns my assertiveness into more aggressive like behaviors.
Because you want to make what you believe in into reality.
Correct. Yeah. So altering that for group settings was a struggle for me as a young lieutenant. It's got easier now that I'm a field grade. officer, because I have to be mindful of perceptions and dynamics a little bit more than what I took into consideration when I was a young officer.
You were so passionate, so ready.
I was.
To change the world.
I was so ready to change the world and do as much good as I possibly could. Not that I'm not now. It just is focused in different areas more so than trying to tackle the whole world.
Yeah.
Every battle did not need to be won as a first and second lieutenant. But in my world, they were important enough to be fought.
Mm-hmm.
Whether I died on that hill or I conquered that hill was a different story. But in my eyes, it was something that needed to get done. Having good mentors and leaders in your life will help you navigate those younger team dynamics as you're learning to be leaders. Yeah.
Well, last but not least, what advice would you give to ROTC cadets or young officers about staying adaptable without losing their core value?
If you hold solid morals and core values and you hold them as your foundation, and your foundation is a strong foundation, doesn't have cracks in it, you will hold to your core values and your morals no matter what gets thrown at you.
Okay.
You can adapt without compromising those values. Now, are there potentially some things that you may personally disagree with, but do not go against your core values of the service that you are a part of? Yes, you might have to reconcile those differences. And you knowing the difference between your personal core values and where your differences lie potentially with the service core values that you are serving in, you will need to have a honest, realistic conversation with yourself. Because when your personal core values differ and alter to a point where they are no longer adaptable or applicable or pertain to the service core values that you are in, then you no longer fit the mold that you're working in. And you have to be willing to say goodbye to the service that you're currently in. And that's where I think a lot of people have problems or issues doing, is having that real conversation with themselves. And like, I still want to serve. Okay, sweet. These are your parameters. Can you operate in them? Well, no, this one parameter is outside of where my parameter is. All right, then you no longer meet qualifications in a sense to be an officer, to be a soldier, to be enlisted, to be an airman, to be a guardian. And when you no longer align, you've got to be willing to say, I no longer fit this mold.
Perhaps it's time to take a step back
and look for a new position, look for a new job, look for something else. You see this a lot with individuals when they start having families and wanting to deploy, not deploy with young kids. A lot of people were highly adaptable when it was just them. They got semi-adaptable when they got married, and they became fully unadaptable to mission sets or changes, or them needed to go do something when it took them away from their family. You no longer meet the needs of what your service is asking you to do. You probably shouldn't be in service anymore. It says nothing about you as an officer. It says nothing about you as an enlisted member or a teammate within the armed forces at all. I've hit that roadblock. I've hit that fork in that road myself multiple times in my career. And I've made sacrifices in different areas of my career, taking certain positions that have taken me out of different things in my career, knowing that I've probably stopped my career at a certain point. Having those conversations, starting as a young second lieutenant, some of you are going to have with yourself. And that's okay. It's nothing to feel bad about. It's nothing to feel guilty guilty about. It's nothing to um, dwell over, in a sense. Life changes. Nothing is stagnant. Everything is revolving or evolving. And as long as if you want to stay stagnant, the world is going to change around you. So you have to learn to adapt no matter what. But if you adapting alters something that you truly corely can't adjust, then you just have to look at finding a new place to get your paycheck from.
Right.
Start your own business if you want. Do other things. So my advice to ROTC cadets or young officers is to continually assess and reflect on you personally, your life, your family, and what service continues to mean for you. Because that transition can happen if you're not looking for it.
Right.
And then you could be too far down the rabbit hole and you're like, well, these are my options now. Which path do I want to take? Because now I only have 2 instead of the 6 I had maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Those conversations with yourself is going to be extremely helpful. Solely because adaptability will be your key as an officer. Adapting to new leadership, adapting to new teams, adapting to a new job, adapting to a new base, adapting to a new mission, adapting to a deployment, adapting to having kids, adapting to having a family member, adapting to a death in the family. All of that is going to cause some change in you, potentially through growth and through movement. And if you don't learn to adapt, you will get left behind.
Especially when life happens and your priorities can also change. So that decisions may have to cause you to go in a direction that may or may not originally be what you wanted. And what a lot of people just don't understand how much sacrifices that this job really requires to be a service member. And it's not hey, I may or may not have to sacrifice, but it is required to sacrifice at some point. And it may not just be about your own sacrifice. It could be your family members, could be the kids, your spouses, could even be your parents when it comes to that. So that is definitely something that we may have to constantly self-reflect to see, hey, I'm going into this next stage in life now. Am I okay? Do I have that power to make that sacrifice when it comes to it? And if I don't, then I really do have to think about, hey, what are my options now? I can still serve in some capacity out in the society that we're living in, but it just may not be this job, this service commitment that I want to make to the military.
It's so true. And I will say, it's not as clear cut either, because everyone looks like the grass is greener on the other side. The paycheck is bigger on that side of the fence too. I will say, yes, some AFSCs can make more money in the outside sector, but what you're starting with too, there's a lot of pros and cons that go into, but you've got to weigh all the pros and cons of potentially moving to an outside job or civilian sector, compared to staying in the service. And don't look just at the negative sides of your military. Like, I've got to deploy. I've got to be away from my family for 6 months. Okay. Does the job you're moving into have a TDY, so a travel commitment to it? Most jobs now have at least some small form or a medium form of travel that goes with it. You might not be away from your family for 6 months at a time. You might be away from your family 3 times a year, 2 weeks at a time. That's 8 weeks out of the year. Are you okay with that? 4 times a year, or getting a 6-month block done one? You know what I mean? Yes, the time difference all at once compared to 2 weeks is different for team family dynamics, and that will just be different depending on how your family sees it. Your loved ones, your spouse, your pets, your kids, your family members, whatever you hold dear as what is your parameters or your priorities within your life. So those all those things need to be taken into consideration as you adapt and move through your career, from being a young second lieutenant to being a major or a higher field grade officer like a lieutenant colonel or even some of our generals. So
Wow, tough job, huh?
it can be, but it is what you make it. So as long as you do what is making you happy and you continue to do something that makes you happy, um, I think you've won no matter what.
Right.
It's just what job are you doing that's making you happy?
Mhm.
And is it a job where you're the employee or is it a job where you're the owner?
And that self-reflection comes a huge role into that.
Yeah.
You know, whether it be life or our career, professions, you do have to ask yourself every so often
Yeah.
to figure out, hey, what do I want? Am I happy?
Correct.
Well, ma'am, thank you so much again for taking the time to sit down with us today. Not a lot of people have experienced what you have experienced. And to hear about your journey and what you have overcome really does highlight the level of professionalism, grit, and adaptability that is expected from an effective leader. So, once again, we really appreciate you sharing.
You are welcome. And thank you for everyone that's listening to it. But also, I don't envy his edits afterwards. So I'm just thankful for the opportunity that I have in order to sit down here and talk with you, as well as anybody that's going to listen to the podcast. It was a great pleasure. And thank you for asking me.
Awesome, awesome. And to everyone else tuning in, we thank you for being here with us. As we move forward in our development as future officers, the military landscape isn't slowing down. And hearing experiences like this gives us the tools and awareness to navigate that change with confidence. So that we hope today's discussion gave you something meaningful to think about as you continue your own leadership journey. Stay focused, stay flexible, and we'll see you in the next episode.